Hi, everybody, and welcome to Heel Heat. My name is George Coles, and on this episode, we're reviewing WWE Monday Night Raw from November 17th, 2025. Before we jump into that, I grade everything here on a 1 to 5 scale, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. With that being said, let's jump right in. We start the show with John Cena. This is his last Monday Night Raw, which I gotta imagine he's gonna do Legends appearances. I know we keep seeing the last time is now thing, but he has to do something like that. Maybe in the lead up to his Hall of Fame ceremony, which is obvious he's gonna get a Hall of Fame, or even just to promote a movie, he shows up backstage. But I digress. As for now, this is gonna be his last Monday Night Raw. He's talking to the fans. That brings out Dominic Mysterio, who demands a rematch. Cena says, yeah, let's do it right now. Dom says no, let's make it for Survivor Series in my hometown, where I have the advantage. Kind of cool. Then we have Finn Balor and JD McDonough come out, basically to attack Cena, which he gets backed up by Sheamus and Rey Mysterio, which leads us right into a 6-man tag match, which is Judgment Day versus Sheamus, Rey, and Cena. Kind of a neat little thing, neat way to have some of the people that Cena's interacted with in the past give one more match with him, whether that be Rey or Sheamus, who have both teamed with him and wrestled against him at some point. Then you also have the Judgment Day, which obviously is a nice feather in their cap to be on John Cena's last Raw match. Look, I like this. I know it was hokey, and I know it was, baby faces get over type thing. They all did their special moves. They all did the beats of the Bowery together. They all did the 5-knuckle shuffle together. And I know it's just a feel-good moment for the crowd and for the fans out there, but I enjoyed it. The babyface teams, John Cena, Sheamus, and Rey Mysterio win. I'm giving this whole thing a 5. I thought it was a great way to start off the show. I am a little bit surprised that this was John Cena's only interaction during the show, but hey, they got it out of the way. The show was able to continue on. We had a nice, fun segment to start off. That leads us into a backstage segment with Nick Aldis and Adam Pearce talking, and they get interrupted by Paul Heyman. Heyman says he respects both of these guys, and what he did was in the rules, which they both agree with, and that was putting McIntyre on his team for Survivor Series, even though McIntyre is suspended. He then answers that with, if that made you angry, our next member is really going to piss you off. I like this. I mean, I love Aldis and I love Pearce as the GMs of their respective companies or respective shows. I think they do a really good job, and they're both really good talkers. Adding Paul Heyman into that mix, I mean, come on, he's Paul Heyman. If he's not the greatest talker of all time, he's in a very, very short conversation for that. Another great segment, I'm giving this a 5. Then we get Jackie Redmond, who's in the ring, who vows to get to the bottom of Stephanie Vacour and Nikki Bella. Nikki Bella turned on Stephanie last week. Stephanie comes out, starts heading to the ring. Before she could get off of the ramp, Nikki Bella attacks her. So we don't get an explanation, but we get more of that. We see that, basically she says that this is my division and I'm coming back to take it back. I want the championship again, which gives us the reasoning for her attack. I don't know if I'm on the board with a Nikki Bella heel turn right now. I think there are a lot of heels on the women's roster. I kind of think Nikki would have done better as a feel-good babyface, even though a lot of the fans have turned on her a bit. But I don't know, I did like this segment. I thought it was a quality segment. I'm giving this a 4. Next up, we get another backstage segment. This time we have Bayley and Lyra Valkyria. They're walking through the backstage, and they get interrupted by Asuka and Kairi Sane. Asuka asks Bayley to join their War Games team. Bayley declines for the obvious reasons. For the last 2 years they've been at odds with each other. I like that there's some logic going into some of this. I like that unlike past WWE shows, we're feeling a little bit of a continuity. They aren't sticking together people that just had a feud a couple months ago and then you just forget about it. There's ramifications and a ripple effect. We've seen some of that on SmackDown with Charlotte Flair, which we'll get into her in a minute. But I do like that after the Kabuki Warriors walk off, Lyra basically tries to shake Bayley's hand and do their little handshake thing. Bayley does her idiot gimmick, which I like the fact that we're seeing a little bit of a break in Bayley. I know it's a slow burn and she's eventually going to turn heel, which is pretty obvious to most people, but I like what they're doing with this. I think it's really good. For this, I'm giving that segment a 4. Now next up we have one of the Last Time Is Now tournament matches. Solo Sikoa is going up against an unnamed opponent, a mystery opponent. One of the first of our surprises for the night, and there were a lot of surprises tonight. We get Dolph Ziggler. And this isn't a knock on Ziggler or how talented he is. To me, I felt like this was a bit of a letdown. The reason I say that, with the names that have been bandied about, like Jericho, like Edge, even though they may not be realistic, Dolph Ziggler's kind of a step below that. I feel like Zack Ryder, aka Matt Cardona, was a better surprise because it's been so long since he's been there. And I know this is going to contradict what I just said, but I would have liked maybe a guy that he had a previous big-time feud with, and that would be Carlito. I would have liked to maybe see a Carlito surprise. Or maybe another NXT talent there. I think he mentioned that he wanted some in there, but there hasn't been barely any of them. Maybe like a Oba Femi or Trick Williams here, or even Ethan Page, or even a TNA talent like that's never been there, like Moose. I don't know. Like I said, it's not a knock on Ziggler. It just felt like an underwhelming payoff. Obviously, Solo Sikoa picks up the win here. He does have Tama Tonga with him, which doesn't get involved. I'm going to give this a 3. I thought the match was good. I think it could have been better, and I think the surprise could have been better. But hey, that's just nitpicking, to be honest with you. Next up, we have Alexa Bliss coming to the ring. Basically, she's saying that Charlotte won't answer her calls, won't answer when she messages her. She knows she's been online. Again, they're bringing logic into this. Too often do we see where a wrestler doesn't contact a wrestler between Monday Night Raws or between Raw and SmackDown or whatever it may be. And you think to yourself, okay, this is supposedly your friend. You haven't contacted them in a week. The first time you're going to try and talk to them is on a live microphone. Where Alexa basically said, this is my last resort. I've tried every other method to reach my friend, and she's not responding. So I am going to come out here and see if she responds to this. I know she's in New York. I like the little touches like that it's not so much that we don't know that this is a show, but it adds logic, it adds real world common sense into it. It makes it more believable, in my opinion. Before Charlotte can respond, we have the women's War Game team as it stands right now. Asuka, Kairi Sane, Lash Legend, and Nia Jax come to the ring, which then brings out Rhea Ripley and Io Sky, which obviously they have a numbers advantage here, which Charlotte comes running to the ring with a kendo stick to make the save. Looks like she's bought in and she's going to be part of the group. We'll see how this plays out on SmackDown. I thought this was a good segment, a little bit of a paint by numbers, and especially in contrast to the men's War Games, which we'll talk about when we get to there, this kind of felt like formulaic, in my opinion. I'm going to give this a 3. I thought it was good. Like I said, I liked what they did with Alexa. We'll have to see where this goes from here. Next up, we have a Women's Intercontinental Championship match. Becky Lynch is defending against Maxine Dupree. The storyline being that Maxine wanted to wait till she was confident enough to wrestle Becky again. This was a really solid match. I want to say this was Maxine's best match, and if it's not, it's the best one I can remember. And I know a lot of that's probably on Becky leading her into a great match, which kudos to Becky, she's an all-time great women's wrestler, but Maxine has to have the talent to carry that off. And her evolution from the Maximum Male Models to where she is now, and being mostly in backstage comedy scenes until now, I like what they're doing with her, and I like how she's being brought along slowly. It kind of reminds me of how Trish Stratus was brought along. This was a good match. Becky Lynch gets distracted when a returning AJ Lee appears halfway through the match. This gives Maxine the advantage. Maxine does pick up the win here. I'm giving this a 4. I thought it was really good. I really did enjoy this. Now next up, we have probably my favorite thing of the night. Another match in the John Cena Last Time Is Now tournament. Javon Evans versus Gunther. And while I knew that Gunther was going to win this, I mean, that was pretty obvious, I wanted to see how this played out for a couple of reasons. Javon Evans is obviously somebody that they're looking at as a future superstar, and he absolutely is. I feel like he could be this generation's Kofi Kingston or Rey Mysterio, or, a little bit undersized babyface that's always fighting from behind. I wanted to see when he got on the stage with absolutely one of the best wrestlers in the world in Gunther. I don't think there's any argument out there when the bell rings and it's in between the ropes. Gunther is one of the best ring generals there is, and that's no pun based on his name. So I wanted to see what they did here. And this was kind of a classic big man, little man wrestling match. This would be similar to X-Pac versus Razor Ramon, or Rey Mysterio versus Kevin Nash, or Rey Mysterio versus Big Show, and on and on and on throughout history. They played the power dynamic of Gunther and the skill level of Gunther up against the speed and the athletic ability of Javon. Javon would get the upper hand by being able to get out of certain things just because he can stretch and he can bounce. That boy bouncy, obviously. And I like how they played this up. This is classic Pro Wrestling 101. As long as there's pro wrestling, you can have a match like this and the fans are going to eat it up. I absolutely loved it. I think it's the best match and the best segment on the show. Gunther does pick up the win here, but Javon Evans looked like a star. This was a star-making match for him. For the people that don't already watch NXT, they're going to want to know what this kid is about. Like I said, I think this is the best part of the show. I'm giving it a 5. Then we go to another backstage segment. We have Jackie Redmond, and she's interviewing AJ Lee and Maxine Dupri. Otis and Tozawa come up, and they kind of take Maxine off. Jackie focuses on talking to AJ Lee. AJ starts talking about how she came back to help her husband, but Becky really rubs her the wrong way. Then we see Rhea Ripley come up, and Rhea says to her basically, "Can I talk to you?" And they walk off together. So obviously we're probably setting up for her to join that side of the War Games match and maybe Becky join the heel side of the match. I thought this was a pretty good segment. I liked it. I liked what it did. I liked how it advanced several things. Again, logic is still there. Maxine is still friends with Tozawa and Otis. They're still tight with each other. AJ Lee still has that hatred for Becky Lynch. Rhea Ripley recruiting, being basically like the captain of her team. All of it makes sense. I like this. I'm giving this a 4. Last but not least, we have the War Games Showdown as we were promised. Outcoming first, Paul Heyman leads out Braun Breaker, Bronson Reed, Logan Paul, and Drew McIntyre. He talks them all up, says he's led the Dangerous Alliance to War Games, he's led the Bloodline to War Games, but this is the most talented group that he's ever going to lead into War Games. And that's a very bold statement, especially if you go back to that Dangerous Alliance team that he did lead into War Games. I know these guys are all great, and I know some of them have a big future in front of them. That's a tall order to be compared to them. Before he could go on too long, CM Punk comes out. That's followed by Jimmy and Jey Uso. Then Cody Rhodes, which they all rush the ring once all 4 of them get there, and we get a brawl going on. As the brawl's going, we hear Brock Lesnar's music hit. The Beast Incarnate comes out. Obviously, he's on Team Heyman. And as Brock is just tossing Cody Rhodes and CM Punk like they're nothing, we hear the Tribal Chiefs music, and Roman Reigns comes out. And the crowd goes insane for Roman. Obviously, they were chanting OTC before this even happened. But man, and I've mentioned this on previous videos when talking about Roman Reigns, I think Roman Reigns structures his matches in a way that is basically for me. I love how Roman Reigns structures his matches. I know a lot of people say they're a little bit boring and slow to start with, which I could get that criticism, but I feel like he lets everything breathe and he lets everything make sense. And that happened here too. We had what would be controlled chaos. He comes in, he basically sets and evens up the sides, gets the Superman punch on Roman, gets a Superman punch on Bronson. Then it all breaks loose, all hell's breaking loose. The NYPD come out, which was a nice touch. We have cops mixed in with the security. They're brawling, it's chaos. Roman spears Bronson and a cop through the guardrail thing, which I know it's a trope that's been done to death now. Almost every time Roman's there, he's going to go through the barricade. But it's still a cool way to get that going. It just looked chaotic and it looked wild. I love this ending, and I'm going to talk about that more in depth here in a moment when I do the overall review. I'm going to give this a 5. I thought it was really good. Overall, there was a lot of stuff I liked on here and really nothing I didn't like. I think this was an excellent episode of Monday Night Raw. It's really building towards both John Cena's last match and Survivor Series. The one nitpicky thing I would say is Cena could have been more involved, maybe have him come out for commentary for the tournament matches, since this is his last Monday Night Raw, or have him involved somewhere else, maybe, the face is talking with him in the back, anything to give us more of John Cena on his last appearance. And that's coming from a guy that admittedly isn't a real John Cena fan. I like him, I think he does great work, but he's not a guy that I've ever really rooted for. But I do think he deserves that. So that's just a little nitpicky. The two different War Games team brawls, I guess you could say, the women's and the men. I think the difference between the women's and the men is the women's felt like every other pull-apart brawl, where the men's felt like chaos. And that could just be, and this is no knock to the talent on the women's side, because all of the women that were involved are extremely talented. But when you look at the men's side of the roster, you have some of the biggest stars of the last 20 years in there. Brock Lesnar, Drew McIntyre, Cody Rhodes, CM Punk, Roman Reigns. I mean, it goes on and on. I guarantee Paul Heyman had his fingerprints all over that. So while one felt cookie cutter and normal brawl and the other felt like chaos, I don't know, it could just be me and it could be just how I perceive it. Maybe you perceive it differently. I'd love to hear your opinion if you think I'm crazy on that. The one thing I do want to mention is all of the surprises, all of the chaos that happened here. We get several surprises on the show. A returning AJ Lee, Gunther's first match back since SummerSlam, the surprise attack from Nikki Bella on Stephanie Vacour, Dolph Ziggler being a surprise opponent, even though I think that's a little underwhelming, two massive stars in Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar coming back at the end. So there was a lot of surprises, a lot of developments. What I'm going to mention here, for some of you younger folks that may be watching this, and even some of you older folks, when us older wrestling fans say we want it to go back to the Attitude Era, this is kind of what we want. We want the surprises. We want to be shocked. We want to see people we don't expect to be there, whether it be Ziggler or AJ Lee, or even if you knew Roman and Brock or thought Roman and Brock were going to be part of Survivor Series, it is awesome to have them come back. They're two major stars, and yes, I know Brock is problematic to some people, but you get the point I'm getting at. There's a lot of surprises. There's chaos to end the show. There's backstage segments, and every backstage segment means something. It moves the storyline forward. This is what we mean when we say we want the Attitude Era back. We just want that excitement, and a lot of times WWE doesn't give us that. But when they do, when it's something like this, at least for me, I think this was an excellent Monday Night Raw. Overall, I'm giving it a 5. I know there were some ebbs and flows on the show, and I know there were some things I ranked lower than that. But overall, it was highly entertaining. Lots of great stuff happening here. This is going to be a Monday Night Raw. I think that'll be remembered, for one thing, for the Javon Evans and Gunther match. I think that'll be a match that people remember for a while. Cena's last Raw, that 6-man, the brawl at the end of the show. I think that's all memorable things that happened here. So again, I really enjoyed this. Giving it a 5. I think it's great. Let me know what you think. What was your favorite part of the night? Was it the ending brawl? Was it the Javon and Gunther match? Was it something that I may have ranked a little bit lower? Let me know down here in the comments. While you're there, smash that like button, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff we all tell you to do. If you're on mobile, hit that hype button. It definitely helps us out, especially being a smaller YouTuber like I am. But with all that being said, my name is George Coles, and this has been my review of Monday Night Raw.